the radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Wednesday. It's June 11th. Summer is here, just around the corner. Hope everybody's having a fantastic week. Weather in LA looks like it's beautiful, as it always is in June. And it's really fascinating what's going on in LA. You've got this. You got downtown. You've got a few blocks downtown, in a city of 8 million people. You've got a few blocks downtown in which some real goons, Antifa-like leftist crazy people, are rioting. And some people using the riots to loot stores. You probably saw pictures of the Apple store being looted, a jewelry store being looted, a bunch of stores being looted, which is horrific and tragic. It's not clear that the same people rioting and demonstrating are the looters. It might be different groups, people taking advantage of the situation. As a consequence of this, I guess the mayor of Los Angeles declared a curfew, and it was pretty quiet last night because of the curfew. People went home and didn't riot, but they're back on the streets today. Although most of the people out in the streets today, not just in California, but all over the country, are peaceful demonstrators, actually demonstrating against ICE. I'm not a huge fan of demonstrations. I don't like demonstrations because they really inflict harm on people not affiliated. They block traffic. They make life difficult for people. But we allow demonstrations. That's what we do. So, we've got demonstrations all over the country. Most of them, as far as I can tell, are peaceful demonstrations. Most of them do not involve carrying Mexican flags and wearing keffiyehs. And I see this one guy, he's got a keffiyeh on, and he's carrying the flag of the Soviet Union. That's the way. This is an opportunity for a group of communist, anarchist, Hamas-loving nutcases on the left to get attention and to do what they love doing, which is smashing things. This is an opportunity for the nihilists to get in on the game. But counter to what many people are saying on TV, I think that Fox News has a emergency in LA 24/7 coverage. This is insane. We've got about 3 to 6 city blocks in metropolitan. Sorry, I said 8 million. The metropolitan LA is 18.6 million. You got 3 to 6 city blocks in downtown LA where there are and have been riots. They keep showing the same fire over and over and over again. The same Waymo cars over and over and over again being burned. It's like, are they burning the same cars over and over? Are they keep ordering more Waymo cars and burning new Waymo cars? I don't think that's true. There's this notion that LA is in flames, that the only thing preventing LA from burning down is the National Guard and now the Marines. But that's just simply not true. The National Guard so far been involved in very little. They've accompanied ICE on some of their raids. They've been behind the police in the background. But almost all of this is handled by the local authorities, as it should be. The Marines, by the way, I've seen video of the Marines. They're training, they're practicing crowd control. This is not what Marines are trained to do. It's not what Marines should be doing. It's not what we should ever use Marines for. But Marines are being trained. I guess there's a sports field somewhere in Los Angeles. They've taken over the sports field, and you've got them in formation. People on the ground practicing what they would do, in terms of crowd control. This is not what they're trained, again, to do. So we're now training Marines to control American crowds, not even Iraqi crowds or something like that, American crowds. So they're there. They're not on the streets yet, although, hard to tell when exactly they will go. We're spending gazillions of dollars on National Guard and Marines. The pictures of the Marines training are actually quite funny. It's a soccer field. I'm just looking at the video. By the layout, it looks like the soccer field over there in Los Angeles. This is the 700 Marines, 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division. They're from 29 Palms, California. And this is in the Northcom Stadium. Northcom Stadium? No, they're from Northern Command. They're in a stadium. I don't know which stadium. All right, anyway, this is going to be an ongoing story. Fox is going to blow it out of proportion. The right will make it out to be something that it isn't so far. Let's hope it doesn't evolve into that. There's very little reason for alarm. Indeed, the calmest people about these riots and demonstrations in LA are the people I know in LA who keep writing to me and saying, there's not much going on. I hope that the people who burnt cars, throwing Molotov cocktails, and are fighting with police, I hope they get arrested. I hope they get thrown in jail. I hope that it is sad that a legitimate cause, which is the cause of immigrants, and I think the harassment, the unjust treatment of immigrants all over the country, is being hijacked. That cause is being hijacked by globalized intifada. By the way, in New York, there's a protest right now at the street corner, and you've got kids, all of them, by the way, I don't know, like European looking, all of them really European looking, with kafirs, yelling from Mexico to Gaza, globalized intifada. I mean, these people are idiots, and it's sad. It's more than anything, it's sad. It's sad, again, that a legitimate cause, which is the cause of these immigrants and the treatment that they're getting from ICE, is hijacked, by far leftists who don't care about immigrants, who are not immigrants themselves, don't care about immigrants, and who are promoting a anarchist, leftist, often communist, pro-Hamas agenda, which has nothing to do, again, with the immigrants. And this is not primarily the immigrants themselves. Although you'll probably find one or two. You'll probably find some, and they'll be brought out by Fox and the right to show, see, this is who they are. But it's just a continuation of the campus protests. It's just a continuation of Black Lives Matter. It is nothing here about immigrants, and there was zero reason to use troops in Los Angeles. Zero reason to bring out the National Guard. Zero reason to bring out the Marines. There was no threat to the city of Los Angeles, and certainly no threat that the city authorities could not deal with. So, and finding the illegal immigrants that commit crimes and pointing them out. I mean, yeah, okay, so the 99% of illegal immigrants don't commit crimes, so we should leave the 99% who don't commit crimes alone. Anyway, that is my view. I mean, the whole crisis around immigration is bogus. It's wrong. It is based on lies, on deception. And yes, I mean, the border under Biden was unruly and horrible, but that's primarily because we don't have a functioning legal immigration system. We don't have a functioning legal system to allow the people who can and want to work in the United States come here legally to be able to work. So, the reality is that illegal immigrants are less violent than Americans are. They pay more taxes than they take out in benefits. They haven't shifted the political map in the United States in any particular direction. They're not the ones responsible for the fact that California went left. They voted, in large numbers for Donald Trump this last election. Have been shifting to the right generally. There is just no argument that illegal or legal immigration are bad for this country. There's just no basis for that. You can bring out, the few individuals who are bad apples, sure. That doesn't disqualify and doesn't change the fact that rights are being violated. American rights to associate, to employ whomever we want. Think about employers who are having their rights violated by ICE when ICE comes into their facility unwelcome, uninvited, and dragging out employees that they voluntarily contracted with to do work. These are the rights of Americans being violated. But, I guess rights don't matter anymore. And not to mention the overreach of ICE where they arrest, native-born Americans. But look, all of this is, all the explanations and excuses and examples that they provide, none of it is real. I mean, all that matters is that Trump gets to fulfill a campaign promise. And he promised to deport millions of immigrants. He's going to deport millions of immigrants. He wants to be able to show that he has the capacity to bring troops into the streets, that he is willing to use that. He didn't the first term, but this term he's willing to do it. It doesn't even matter that they're going to do anything. They might all go back to base. But now everybody knows. Everybody knows. Cities, governors, and demonstrators all know that Trump is willing to bring troops into the street. It is like a hanging threat over anybody who opposes his power, anybody who opposes his ideas. The only time, the one exception to his willingness to bring troops into the streets is, of course, January 6th. God forbid we actually stop an insurrection, an attempted insurrection. Wouldn't want to do that. So this is all a power play by Trump to show that he's willing and capable of doing this. This is all an attempt to intimidate people. And it's just given an excuse for the worst people on the left to go out there and yell their disgusting views and disgusting beliefs into microphones. I mean, it would be good if we had a proper view of demonstrations in this country where you can't just rally your guys and go out into the streets and block traffic and just yell whatever the hell you want. You can use private land. You can go and write whatever you want, but you can't just obstruct people's lives with demonstrations. But then you'd have to apply it consistently, and there's no chance of that happening. It seems like demonstrations are just a part of what people believe. So this is this is just feeding MAGA hysteria. MAGA exists on the basis of fear, hysteria, panic, and a big part of that fear, hysteria, and panic is oriented around immigrants and the evil of immigration and the fact that immigrants are they believe immigrants are destroying this country, and no, it's MAGA destroying this country. MAGA is destroying this country. What we need is proper legal immigration. Legal immigration that opens our borders to more and more immigrants who can work in this country. We could easily absorb 1 million, 2 million immigrants a year with work visas, and let them work and do that, and illegal immigration goes away. There is no illegal immigration if you legalize work-related immigrants. It just goes away. Yeah. Jonathan says the Daily Beast article said that Trump gets a boner from ordering in Marines against protesters. And I think that's right. I think that's right. He thrives on power. He thrives on being a little dictator, a little authoritarian. He loves the idea of being able to command the military to go where he wants them to go, do what he wants them to do. He loves that. I think the Secretary of the Army yesterday called the military Trump's army. So he loves to think of it as his army. He has these toy soldiers he can play with. They're not so toy. And I think he really gets off. He gets off on being authoritarian, on sending troops into the streets of America. I mean, what would give a power luster more thrill, more excitement, more gratification than that? And I think that's exactly what he is doing. You know, we will all suffer the consequences of that. All right. I think that'll work. So, yeah, you know, maybe this will get a little worse. Maybe this will get a lot worse. But, you know, I don't know. And Democrats generally, or those who are critical of Trump, do everything you can to separate yourself, differentiate yourself from the nutcases who are turning these things into riots and turning these things into far left crazy opportunities to spout their hatred and their nonsense. By the way, fulfilling campaign promises that were bad to begin with is not a virtue, it's a vice. So this is a vice. What he's doing is a vice. ICE is a vice. ICE is a vice. Huh. Maybe that's a T-shirt. We should make a T-shirt. ICE is a vice. The vice of ICE. I don't know. I could get carried away with this. Anyway, just to give you a flavor of the nuttiness of some people. Let me see. Where was this? What happened to the story? There it is. There it is. So I guess there's this restaurant somewhere that after October 7th, I guess the anniversary of October 7th, added new drinks to the menu. And one of those drinks, just to give you a sense of how despicable some people can be, one of those drinks is called Sweet Sinwar, in honor of and tribute to the leader of Hamas, who was killed by the Israelis a few months ago, and then his brother was killed last week. Sweet Sinwar, and you know, and this is disgusting, despicable, horrible, but you know, this is kind of the you know, this guy planned, executed, ordered the rape and torture and burning and pillage and murder and kidnapping of hundreds of civilians, hundreds. And you know, over 1,200 were killed. Many of those raped and tortured before they were killed. And then a bunch of them were then, you know, a couple of hundred were then taken hostage. Anyway, some people want to celebrate that, which is sick and disgusting and despicable. But this is what you cannot do. So here's Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi, by the way, just in case you didn't know, is our, what do you call it? Our Attorney General. She's Attorney General, head of the Justice Department, right? Attorney General, important person. She goes, after describing the Sweet Sinwar in honor, a tribute of the leader of Hamas, she says, you can't do that. And so we've sued them. And we're going to stop this from happening. And anywhere in the country, if you do this, we're coming after you. Now, I hope many of you are doing a double take. Because, well, yeah, it really is horrible that some people support Hamas and think Hamas is a good deal and want to call drinks after the leader of Hamas in the name of rape and pillage and murder and hostage taking. We live in America still. Unless you're actively, inciting violence, you can hold horrible, disgusting, evil ideas. Indeed, most of MAGA does. And most of far left does. And you can legally do that. It's called liberty, First Amendment, freedom. Now, Pam Bundy, the Attorney General, is telling us that if you name drinks after something that she finds offensive and horrible and disgusting and unacceptable, the Justice Department will come after you. Because, according to Pam Bundy, we do not have free speech in this country. Now, we could go on and on about free speech, and I have many, many times, but this is a foundational right, particularly for those of us trying to change the world. I mean, think of how many offensive things I say all the time about Trump and MAGA and J.D. Vance and the rest of them. I mean, should I be worried? Is that at some point going to be unacceptable? It certainly seems that way. Our freedoms to speak our mind are going away now. It's true. Who the hell wants to defend a Hamas supporter? But the reality is, if you're not willing to defend a Hamas supporter, they will come after you. If you're not willing to defend a Hamas supporter for his speech, you are next. You are next. Unless you're just a mindless conformist and then you're safe, don't worry, be happy. Adam asked, can I sell Donald Trump toilet paper? You should be able to, but I don't know if Pam Bondi is going to allow you to. You might have to get approval from your local law enforcement agents. I mean, this is pretty foundational stuff. This is the First Amendment. We all worried, and people on the right, people freaked out because of Biden's attacks on the First Amendment, and they were bad, going after social media, what you can and cannot say. But this is like next level. This is literally suing people because you don't agree with the politics behind the name of a drink that they're offering. And then add to that, yesterday, Donald Trump, was it yesterday? Maybe it was yesterday. Donald Trump said, quote, people that burn the American flag should go to jail for 1 year. We're going to try and get that done. And yet, according to the Supreme Court in Texas versus Johnson, quote, we do not consecrate the flag by punishing its desecration. For in doing so, we dilute the freedom that this cherished emblem represents. I hate to break it to you guys, but burning the flag is your right. And again, even though you might find the act itself disgusting, horrific, we must defend the right to do it. Just like I would defend the right of Holocaust deniers to deny the Holocaust. They should not go to jail. They should be shunned. They should be, ignored. They should be deplatformed. There are lots of things. You should be canceled culturally. But government has no job. Government has no role. No role in doing this. Now, again, the more they go after people, the more they make clear their disregard for the First Amendment, the more they're willing to use the government to go after you, the more people are going to self-censor. The fewer people are going to speak out. So, it's these are real issues, real problems, real challenges that we have to face. Also, in the last few days, I think I mentioned this. Timmy Moran of ABC News. I need to find, where did I see? I'm looking for the actual thing he wrote. Anyway, Timmy Moran, who is a journalist for ABC News, wrote on Twitter this kind of scathing critique of Miller, the Trump advisor, Miller, and let's see if we have it published somewhere. It's probably deleted now, but I'm looking to see if anybody's. Yeah, okay. I can't find what he actually wrote. I had it. I thought I had it. Let me see. Let's see if you can do this if you put it on Twitter, if you find it. Yeah, here's some of it, right? He wrote, the thing about Stephen Miller is not that he is the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy. But that's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bio. Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatred are his spiritual nourishments. His hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Trump is a world-class hater, but his hatred is only a means to an end, and that end is his own glorification. That's a spiritual nourishment. Now, I think that's generally a pretty accurate description of Stephen Miller and of Trump. And, I think, now it's not journalistic, but this is a tweet. This is not in a journalistic article. Well, I mean, the White House complained and told ABC this was completely unacceptable. And ABC yesterday said that, quote, we are at the end of our agreement with Terry Moran, and based on his recent post, which was a clear violation of ABC's news policies, we have made the decision to not renew. Imagine this was flipped. Imagine this was Biden was president, and somebody at Fox or somebody at the Wall Street Journal, somebody else, made a comment like this about Biden or one of his advisors, and then the White House demanded that he be fired, and the left demanded he be fired. The right would be flipping out about cancel culture and about the demands of culture. And what are you so thin-skinned that you can't handle a little criticism and so on? Conservatives would flip. But here we are. Somebody criticized the president. Maybe it was unprofessional. Maybe he should have gotten a slap on the wrist. given that he's a journalist. But for the White House to demand his firing, and of course, ABC is like in a position of, do we really want to piss off the president? He sends troops out into the streets. They're willing to sue restaurants for using names of drinks. He's banned, what was it, AP or somebody from actually being in press briefings. Maybe we don't want to piss off the president. Maybe we should do what he tells us. And this is how you slip into authoritarianism. This is how you slip into no free speech anymore, no criticism of the president anymore. So, we are living through a slow descent, and it's worthwhile paying attention because this is how it happens. This is how it happens. How we descend into authoritarianism. How we descend into, accepting the idea that, it's okay to limit an essential, cornerstone part of our freedoms, which is the First Amendment. And, if anything, the press, the mainstream media, have been way too nice to Donald Trump. They've been way too forgiving of Donald Trump. They didn't make as much as they should have of January 6th. They didn't make as much as they should have from his promise to deport all these immigrants and to use ICE the way he's done. I mean, I look right now, they're pretty soft on him with regard to Los Angeles. And even if the entire press corps is against Donald Trump, as they were, for example, against Ronald Reagan, it does not give the government the right to start violating their free speech. And once you accept that, once you tolerate that, once you all say, but they're not nice to Donald Trump, and they really should be nicer to him, and so it's okay to silence him in this case, not everything. Then you've given up on the principle, and you're not an advocate for liberty and freedom anymore. Now you're just an apologist for authoritarianism. This is how you slip into authoritarianism, not because you're an authoritarian, but because you tolerate a little bit here and a little bit there, and by the time it's full blown, you don't even know it happened to you. So I'm here to remind you. That's my job. Here to remind you that I am for liberty, freedom. The government does not get involved in what people say in speech. Government has no business in policing the names of drinks or the comments of journalists. Because when they do, we know where that ends, and it does not end well. It does not end well for anybody who values freedom, values liberty. All right, Trump announced the victory today. This is all caps. The entire thing is all caps, right? Our deal with China is done, subject to final approval of President Xi and me. 4 magnets and any necessary rare earths will be supplied upfront by China. Likewise, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which has always been good with me. We are getting a total of 55% of tariffs. China is getting 10%. Relationship is excellent. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This has to be one of the funniest tweets in all of history of tweetdom. In other words, the president has just announced victory because we're back to the situation we were before he started raising tariffs on China. We're not back to that situation. We're actually worse off, significantly worse off than what we were before, because now, we've got 55% tariffs. So he is celebrating the fact the taxes on Americans have just gone up dramatically. On all Chinese goods, Americans are now going to pay 55%. I mean, if they come from China, the stuff that they route through other countries, we don't know yet what the tariff will be on them. But 55% of Chinese goods. And they only pay 10. So the Chinese people, they have a slight tax increase. We've got a massive tax increase, 10x. I think tariffs on Chinese goods were under 5% before Trump started his nonsense on tariffs. And now he's celebrating the fact that he scored a deal, a great deal, where the American people now have a 10x increase in their taxes. And I know some of you will justify this. Some of you will celebrate with him because you love to pay more taxes. You want your stuff to be more expensive. Taxes are good. That's the new motto. So, in other words, nothing happened. Chinese, we're paying huge taxes. We're getting the rare earth material that we were getting until Trump started to play these games or launch what they call a trade war with China. We're getting those back. Oh, Chinese students can study in America again. That was the status quo until a couple of months ago. But that shouldn't be any surprise. And we will provide to China what was agreed to. We don't even know what was agreed to, details of this deal. And it's not really a deal. It's a framework for potential framework for a deal in the future. So it's just unbelievable. We can see to China on the stuff the Chinese hawks were concerned about, and we get higher tariffs on Americans who buy toys, clothes, and other stuff that has nothing to do with national security, and this is somehow a win. I don't get it. But this is Trump doublespeak, and people are excited about it. U.S. exports, tariffs on U.S. exports prior to Trump's action, prior to the beginning, before Trump did all this stuff, was 5%. So now it's 10%. So it's a tax increase on the Chinese, but it hurts, our exports. That's not good that it's higher. I thought the whole point was to lower tariffs. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's not. It seems like it's not. Can't keep track of what the purpose of tariffs is. One day, when they figure out his 6D chess, we will know what this was all about, what the purpose of all this actually was. Until then, we'll have to just wait patiently, guys. Just wait patiently. We pay 5.5 times more taxes than the Chinese, and this is a victory. I mean, this guy the art of the deal, wow. Spectacular. Really amazing. I mean, people told me, oh no, he really wants free trade. He's really a free trade guy. Country after country offer him free trade. They offer him zero tariffs, and he goes, no, I don't believe in free tariffs. In zero tariffs. I don't believe in free trade. Israel offered him zero tariffs. Vietnam offered him zero tariffs. I think the UK offered him zero tariffs. He's not interested. He wants your taxes to go up. And he wants, more than anything else, is to be admired and respected and to be perceived as this all-powerful being. And of course, he wants that control. He wants that sense for himself that he's an all-powerful being. Marines, go to LA. Yes, sir. Immediately. See, in his first term, his defense secretary said, not appropriate. We shouldn't be sending Marines. It's not what they're trained for. It's not what they're supposed to do. No, let law enforcement deal with it. And this term, oh no. Trump says something, they salute immediately. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are, after all, God's gift to this country. Without you, God. LA would burn. Every city in America would burn. I mean, America would burn. America would be destroyed without you. Anyway, we now have a framework for a deal with China that makes us worse off than before Trump started this whole mess. Not particularly overwhelming. All right. Elon Musk in the news again, because he tweeted today at 3 or 4 a.m. It's up late. Maybe it was earlier. Maybe it was 1 a.m. He tweeted at 3 or 4 a.m. East Coast time. I regret some of my posts about President real Donald Trump last week. They went too far. I wonder which ones. Are they the ones about the big beautiful bill? I don't think they went too far. I think they were kind of moderate. Was it the one about you winning him the election? Yeah, I don't know how truthful that is. So maybe you did go too far on that one. Is it the one where you said he would be on the Epstein list? That would be interesting to find out, Elon. Are you saying you made that up? Or is he not on the list? Is he on the list? Yeah, I mean, which post did you go too far on? It would be really valuable to know. And now you might think, why is Elon doing this? Well, this is from an account called JD Vance News. I guess not JD Vance officially. Elon Musk lost 25% of his fortune, approximately $113 billion, while leading efforts to streamline the U.S. government. Are you willing to give Elon Musk a heartfelt thank you? I mean, I think he's trying to. Elon is trying to get back in the good graces of certainly some within the Trump administration. I don't think he's going to make it into Trump's orbit again. But he'd like to stay close to J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is the future, after all, and to Trump Jr., and to some of the other big supporters of Musk. Whoops, is audio breaking? Breaking? Oh, so refresh. Somebody said refreshed, and the thing is coming in and out. Not sure what's going on. Audio disruption. But now video disruption. It's just audio. Weird. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Hopefully it's back. It's fine now, Adam says. Okay. So Elon's struggling. Trump has threatened to withdraw contracts, government contracts. Like it or not, SpaceX depends on government contracts. And now I'm breaking up again. Figure it out, guys. Some of you are saying it's fine. Some of you are saying I'm breaking up. I think the suggestion is to refresh your screen. Refresh your screen. So try that and see what happens. Anyway, yeah, I mean, who knows what threats are being made against Trump? One thing I didn't know, I didn't realize this is interesting. In the big, beautiful bill, there is a provision that basically requires the FCC to auction off a significant bandwidth of radio frequencies. These are frequencies currently used by broadcast television. It's called the upper C band. To be used for what they're calling 6G wireless. So, you know, we have 5G now, 6G. You should be able to stream everything on 6G. So 6G should allow you to stream television, stream everything wirelessly. And of course, you know, so a lot of companies, the television companies are freaking out because they're going to lose this capacity to stream television programs to you over the upper C. So Disney, Warner Brothers, Discovery, NBC, Universal, Fox, Paramount, A&E are all in distress. And they've filed to ask that this not be done. But this is part of the big, beautiful bill, and the FCC will have to auction them off. On the other hand, you've got AT&T and T-Mobile and Verizon eager to keep upgrading your internet service by buying new spectrum and being able to feed it with 6G. But when the 6G goes to auction, and they will be auctioned, they're one of the big players, and they have lobbied accordingly. In this auction is going to be SpaceX. It's going to be Starlink, right? Elon Musk. Whoops, what happened there? Elon Musk wants this bandwidth. This is part of the future of his satellite Starlink internet venture. You want to be able to keep upgrading the quality of the connection. You want to be able to expand it to other kinds of services. And he is already, or they have already indicated that they're going to be bid. Brendan Carr, who is the chairman of the FCC, is pretty close with Elon Musk. This is just a different angle on the swamp. The I don't know, post-Trump or Trumpish swamp, the new swamp. So Brendan Carr, who heads the FCC under Trump, is friends, and he's requested that Congress authorize this auction. And everybody pretty much knows, right, that SpaceX is going to be buying or trying to buy a significant portion of the spectrum. Now, Jeff Bezos has his eyes on this. They have a Project Kuiper, which is a Starlink rival. There are other firms that have Starlink rivals that would like to buy this. So this is going to be an intense auction. And who your friends are is important. And, this Musk-Trump fallout is not good for Brendan Carr, and it's not good for Musk's business activities that are going to rely on a decent relationship with the Trump. I mean, he needs to be a big animal in the swamp, not a little animal in the swamp. So Musk falling out with Trump puts Brendan Carr in a real bind. But he is very, very loyal to Trump. So what's he going to do? What is he going to do? So Musk is trying to do anything he can at this point to ingratiate himself upon Trump, to get back in Trump's at least not negative, although it's going to be hard for him to do, not negative, so that he's sucking up, basically, because he's got too many business interests associated that rely on the Trump administration's being at least okay with him. All right, President Trump yesterday ordered that a bunch of military bases names be restored. You've got, he said this at a talk he gave to U.S. Army soldiers at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, that he's going to restore the names to Fort Pickett, Fort Hood, Fort Gordon, Fort Polk, Fort A.P. Hill, and Fort Robert E. Lee. Fort Robert E. Lee, he said in his talk. Now, the Pentagon is saying, no, it's going to be Fort Lee, and it's named after some other Lee, not Robert E. Lee. But Trump said Robert E. Lee. Anyway, Matt Walsh, my favorite conservative, took this opportunity to let us know what he thinks about Robert E. Lee. And he writes, Robert E. Lee was a man of great honor and integrity, qualities that these modern critics can't comprehend. He was given the choice between taking up his sword against his home and community and family, or standing beside them in battle. Beside them in battle? How about leading them in battle? Anyway, he chose the latter. Any reasonable person can understand why he made that choice. In other words, patriotism, blood and soil, above all, blood and soil. And by the way, as I said, he didn't stand beside them in battle. He led them in battle. And it wasn't just any home. It was a home that had launched a revolution in order to defend slavery. A massive violation of the very principle on which America was founded. And he chose to side with the slave owners. He chose to side with the perpetuation of slavery. He chose to abandon his oath to the Constitution. He chose to lead an army in the slaughter of tens of thousands of Americans. That's integrity? That's honor? We can understand why he did it? He's a good guy? No, Robert E. Lee does not deserve honor. He is not a man of integrity. He's a man who betrayed the Constitution he swore to defend. He was given a choice between the ideas of the Constitution, the ideas of the founders, the ideas represented by the North, and the blood and soil of the South. Yes, he was not a defender personally of slavery. It doesn't matter. He fought for it. He sanctioned it. He defended it. He slaughtered for it. He killed for it. Jeff Jacoby has a good take on this. Jeff Jacoby, the conservative commentator from Boston, who I really like. Robert E. Lee was a traitor who violated his oath to support and defend the Constitution in the most horrific way imaginable by slaughtering tens of thousands of Americans. He could have chosen to uphold honor and decency. He chose instead to uphold white supremacy and slavery. Well put, Jeff Jacoby. Perfect. Anyway, it's a frigging disgrace that these fourth names are being returned. This is consistent with Hegseth changing the names of ships and boats. They changed the name of the Harvey Milk ship because he was a gay mayor of San Francisco, was murdered for being gay. They changed the name. I don't know what the criteria should be to name boats or to name ships or to name forts, but it certainly shouldn't be on the standard of, oh yeah, we should name forts and military bases for people who committed treason against the United States of America. But this is the state we find ourselves in. This is what Republicans are willing to fall on the sword for, because this is how they fight the left. This is how they fight woke. This is how they stand up to DEI, by defending the South, by defending Robert E. Lee. This is how we protect America from those evil leftists. It's sad. Talk about sad. You remember when this guy, amateur so-called historian Cooper, went on Tucker Carlson and then went on what's his name? God, names are impossible. My mind does not retain them. I can see his face. Can't, the big podcaster, the biggest podcaster in the world. Anyway, he went on there, Joe Rogan, thank you. Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson, we said, why are these people hosting Nazis? Now, I get why Tucker Carlson was hosting him, but Joe Rogan and people say, well, he's not a Nazi, he's just asking questions. He's not a Nazi, he's just questioning the conventional interpretation of World War II. He's not really a Nazi. That's not really what he is. Not really what he is. Anyway, yesterday, a guy named Corey Mahler, 22 hours ago, yesterday, a guy named Corey Mahler posted, the American right is, by any reasonable metric, now openly National Socialist. National Socialist, you know what that is. Anyway, Martyr Maid, which is the name of this Cooper guy, this pseudo-historian, went online and he posted a GIF with a picture of the Joker, and under it, it says, "I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve. I'm just ahead of the curve." So he was a National Socialist before the American right was a National Socialist. They finally caught up to him. The guy's a Nazi. He was always a Nazi. He's still a Nazi. And the fact that anybody would tolerate him, the fact that anybody would give him attention, and the sad reality that so many people follow him on social media, and he has so much attention, and he gets so much respect for so many people, is truly, despicable and sad. People still listen to his podcast. They love his historical stuff. The fact is, you're Nazi, okay, what the hell? Why not? We can just go with that. Yep. Yep. Well, now we know he's calling himself a Nazi, and he is one, right? He is one. Always was one. Well, at least a Nazi apologist. All right, finally, some good news. It turns out that when Mohammed Sinwar, this is the brother of the Sinwar who was the leader of Hamas on October 7th. He was killed months ago, but the brother, Mohammed Sinwar, who was the military chief of Hamas, he was killed last week. And he was killed when Israel bombed the tunnels under the hospital where he had his headquarters. And the good news is that he's dead. That's good news. But the even better news is that he died slowly. In other words, it turns out that Israel dropped the bombs on all. They had the tunnel network so kind of mapped out that they dropped bombs on all the exits. And they basically shut him off inside the tunnel. And he died slowly of suffocation. They have found his body. And note that the body was found under the emergency ward of Gaza's second largest hospital. Now, from the beginning of the war, Israel has been claiming Hamas uses hospitals to shield its fighters. And nobody believed them. Or if they did believe them, nobody cares. I mean, Greta doesn't care. Greta thinks Hamas are the good guys. And that Israel is just gratuitously bombing hospitals. Anyway, he's dead. He died slowly. I think what's his name? Nasrallah died the same way. He died ultimately of suffocation, not from the actual collapse of, they basically bombed the place such that there was no way out. And they were caught under the rubble, and they died slowly. From this article, the tunnel was only opened by Israeli troops when they reached the spot at the entrance to the European hospital in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Nearly 4 weeks later. Oh, so he was killed. That's right. He was killed 5 weeks ago. 5 bodies were found in a small underground room beneath the emergency ward of the main hospital in Gaza's second largest city. On June 8th, one was identified as that of Mohammed Sinwar, the military chief of Hamas. Of course, Hamas has already appointed a replacement, and they always find a way to replace their leaders. But, the more leaders you kill, the better, and the easier it is to defeat them ultimately. There's no question about that. And, of course, it's an act of justice. They deserve to die. It is worth noting that Israel seems to have developed ways to deal with deep bunkers. They did that with the Nasrallah in Beirut. They did it here. These bunkers were pretty deep. The Iranians should pay attention maybe you don't need bunker busting bombs like the U.S. 35,000-pound bomb to deal with it. Maybe the Israeli Air Force has a better, less expensive, and strategy within their own capabilities. All right, that is the news for this Wednesday, June 11th. Thank you, guys. We're going to turn to the Super Chat questions now. I noticed that we've reached our first hour goal and a little exceeded it. That's good, but we do have a second hour goal. So there is another $200 to go in terms of raising, but we've got an hour to do it if the questions last that long. So please consider questions you'd like to ask, or just consider supporting the show because you find it entertaining, educational, inspiring, depressing, whatever. You get value from it in some way. Please consider expressing that value in a contribution here on the Super Chat as a form of payment, value for value. For example, Mike Dahl did a sticker. Thank you, Mike. And let me see. I know Jonathan Honig did 2 stickers to start the show, and Peter Cini did a sticker right at the beginning. So thank you guys for the stickers. You too, who are watching on YouTube. There's a bunch of you watching YouTube, about 170. And then another 200 on Twitter. Please consider coming in and making a contribution. I'll also add the best way to support the show, if you're interested in supporting the show, the best way to do a trade, a value for value, because this show is 100% supported by listeners like you and sponsors. We'll get to sponsors in a minute. You can do that on Patreon, patreon.com, and just put Yaron Brook Show, and you can become a monthly contributor. I know a lot of you have over the last few months. Please keep it up. Keep your support going. And those of you who have never supported the show on Patreon, please consider doing so. Having a regular support on a monthly basis is incredibly valuable for the long-term planning of the show itself. All right. Let's see. What did I want to? Yeah. Okay. Alex Epstein is a sponsor of the show. AlexEpstein.substack.com. AlexEpstein.substack.com is where you can find his work. Best thinker out there on issues related to fossil fuels, energy, environmentalism, climate change, all of that stuff. It gives you talking points. You'll become a better communicator. You'll know a lot more about the topic. And you'll just be informed about what's going on in the world right now, particularly with the Trump administration trying to liberalize energy. Alex has an inside track on what's actually happening and what's actually going on. So follow him, support him. AlexEpstein.substack.com. And the Ayn Rand Institute is also a sponsor of the show. We've got 2 new sponsors coming on board soon, one very soon, and another one, a little later. But Ayn Rand Institute is a sponsor. The Ayn Rand Institute is right now offering a discount for OCON for everybody listening to Yaron Brook Show. You can sign up either for the live being present at OCON or for the internet version by going to aynrand.org/start here, registering for OCON, and then using this discount code 25YBS10, 25YBS10, and it would be great to see you live at OCON. Live registration is available for another 5 days, but if not, at least get a subscription where you can watch it live online. And you'll be engaged in what's going on. All right. Let's see. Ex Nihilo Nihi Fit from Bulgaria. Right-wing philosopher Stefan Molyneux, whose 850,000 channel got banned by YouTube, complained about $1 and $2 tips actually wasting his time with their counting and so, and told people to keep them if that's all they can give are they not a problem for you? No, I don't know what he was talking about. I don't know why it's an accounting problem. I mean, I get one check from YouTube, or I get one check from PayPal, or one check from Patreon. Which, it might be an accounting problem for them, but for PayPal and YouTube, but for me, it's not an issue, right? So feel free to send in $1, $2, whatever you want, in whatever currency you want. Again, even the currency conversion is done by either YouTube, Patreon, all of those. So, and the reality is, if you can only afford $1 or $2, then you should feel like you're paying for what you're getting. And I don't want to deny you that. And every dollar counts. And if there are hundreds of people doing $1, $2, it adds up. So, yeah, I have no problem with that, and quite supportive of it. Jacqueline said, "Hey, Yaron, I'm frustrated by my conservative friends, both objectivist and non-objectivist." How can an objectivist be a conservative? Anyway, we'll pick it up. Who say due process should only extend to citizens, regardless of the 5th and 14th Amendment. Can you explain why it's morally correct to extend due process to all people? Well, I mean, here is the question. Is due process part of your right to life? Your right to liberty? Because your right to life and your right to liberty and your right to property are universal rights. These are not civil rights. These are individual rights. They are rights recognized because you're a human being, not because you're an American. Everybody has these rights. They hold these rights as a rational human being. The only way those rights, you should not be respected is if you violate rights. But as long as you're not a rights violator, and crossing the border is not a rights violation, it's a legal violation, but not a rights violation, then you have to be recognized for all the rights that you have as an individual, as a human being. So, there are such things as civil rights. For example, the right to vote is a civil right. It's not a crucial right. It's not an individual right. It's not an extension of the right to life. It extends, therefore, only to citizens. But the right to act in the world, the right to speak, the right to write, the right to free speech, and the right to have due process before the law. That is the right to be able to face your accuser and to get an explanation for why you've been arrested and to have an opportunity to challenge that. That is an inalienable right of you as an individual. It has nothing to do about whether you're a citizen or not. It's immoral and should be illegal to steal from illegal immigrants. It's wrong and illegal to silence illegal immigrants. It's wrong and illegal to take away the freedoms of illegal immigrants. They have a right. So one has to separate those things that are civil rights, and you have to think about what those are. Certainly the easiest one there is the right to vote, from individual rights, rights that pertain to you because you're a human being. And the Declaration of Independence starts off with, all men are created equal. Not all citizens are created equal. Inalienable rights are not right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There's nothing in the Declaration that says that pertains only to citizens. Because indeed the opposite. All men are created equal suggests that it pertains to all men. And then, of course, you've got the 5th and 14th Amendment that make it pretty clear that due process is a right that everybody has and that the government cannot violate it. If you don't follow the law, or if you do follow the law, is irrelevant. Due process is there before they've proven that you violated the law. It's there to give you an opportunity to challenge the fact that you violated the law. That's the whole point of it. I mean, we have another principle in our legal system called innocent until proven guilty. Now, the standard of proof in the immigration law is different than the standard of proof in criminal cases, but you still have to prove. The whole point of due process is to protect the innocent from being unjustly accused of a crime. The whole point of due process is to protect the innocent. Now, again, immigration is not, it's such a small, insignificant violation of the law. It doesn't violate anybody's rights. Who are these, whose rights are being violated? Due process is the way in which they discover whether you're legal or illegal. Without due process, how do they know? How do they know they haven't made a mistake? It's the whole point of it. And exactly what due process means in the context of immigration law, they're well-established, long-running, well-established, rules on how to do that. All right, let's see. Not your average algorithm. Bosch Fawstin really went off the rails in his defense of Trump, arguing people who oppose Trump aren't real objectivists. He's been attacking you and ARI, pure Trump mindlessness syndrome from someone who should know better. Yeah, I mean, he should know better. I used to be quite friendly with Bosch a long, long time ago. But you could tell even then that he was a little, he was non-objective. His attacks on Islam, qua Islam, his refusal to differentiate between Islam and Islamists, and then he was enamored with Trump the first time around, and it doesn't surprise me he's completely enamored with him this time around. I don't get it. I don't understand it. There are quite a few people out there like this. You've got to give Leonard Peikoff credit, I think, to the extent that what James Valiant said about Leonard Peikoff changing his mind about Trump. At least he was willing to change his mind. But some people, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what the evidence is. They're not going to change their mind. And there are a lot of people who love to hate me, and that's fine. Let them go after me. It's all good. I can handle it. So, Trump mindlessness syndrome affects former objectivists as well as just MAGA people out there. I mean, we saw it in the chat here for many years until I blocked most of them, and many of the others are keeping quiet because they don't want me to block them again. Some of them pop in once in a while. Hopper Campbell says, Hitler was a vegetarian, failed artist who was bitter and envious of the world and hated human beings. It's hard to argue he was a man of the right. But today's right has adopted testament and hatred of his unifying principle. I mean, look, at the time, he was considered a man of the right. I mean, the reality is that the right is considered the opposite of the left. So if you object to the left, you're on the right. So Hitler rose to power hating on the left. That was his claim to fame. That was the reason he was elected, was to fight the left. There was a real fear that the commies were going to take over in Germany, and one of the bases for the anti-Semitism was the commies all Jews, or motivated by Jews, funded by Jews. And the whole point was just, to some extent, like MAGA, is to fight the left. The enemy is the left. And Hitler was just a means to an end to get rid of the left. So he's of the right. That's the opposite of the left, right? But that's the superficial way of viewing the political spectrum. This is why I hate left and right. It should be individualism or capitalism versus collectivism, individual rights versus collectivism. And then you put Hitler and Mao and Stalin and on one side, and you put most of the politicians we have today somewhere, not quite where they are, but on that spectrum, on the collectivistic side. And then, I don't know, you put objectivists and classical liberals, moving towards the side of individualism with objectivists all the way to the other side. That's the real spectrum. So he was of the right, if that's what you mean by right, as opposed to the left, which is what most people mean by right. Right. Barbara says, when free speech is not possible, it's time to leave. My daughter visited me in Portugal and felt the need to advise, and I felt the need to advise her to clean her phone before going through U.S. customs. That's pretty scary that you would do that. I don't clean my phone before going through U.S. customs. They never stop me, and I'm in and out all the time. But yeah, the problem is, where do you go? It's not like Europe has a good track record of free speech. Europe has hate speech laws that are much worse than America's. Europe imprisons people for speech in a way that's much worse than what America does. It's where do you go? Where do you escape to? I mean, look what's happening in the UK right now with hate speech laws and people being arrested for tweets and people being fined for burning Qurans and stuff like that. The United States still has, I think that Pam Bondi would lose the lawsuit trying to force them to change the drink's name. I think the Supreme Court would actually rule against her. We still have a legal system that respects the First Amendment. And if you're a U.S. citizen, I think that you're still okay. Yeah. If you're a U.S. citizen and you look like me, you're still okay. But yeah, it's scary that in the land that has a First Amendment and a Bill of Rights, we have to even talk about this stuff. And our government is so ignorant of the Bill of Rights that it is willing to violate it at its very foundations. But the more you read about American history, the more you realize that, yeah, our government has always been dramatically flawed. Dramatically flawed. Adam, good to hear from you. Listening from a Brandy Melville clothing store as my daughter is looking at their John Galt clothing line. Really? With signs referencing Galt on the wall. A pleasant surprise. Huh. I didn't know Brandy Melville had John Galt clothing. At some point, what was it? The yoga store had a bunch of stuff that was related to Atlas Shrugged. I forget the name of the yoga store. But I wonder who owns Brandy Melville clothing store. I'll have to look at that up and reach out to them. We can get them to. All right. Thank you, Adam, for letting me know and for the support. Taylor, even here in Ireland, once I dig a little, I see a flicker of individual liberty in repressed religious people. What are your thoughts on Catholic guilt, its effects on society, and helping people move beyond it? Well, I think Catholic guilt is one of the most horrific ideas, most horrific psychological states one could be in. Its ultimate source is original sin. The idea that we are inherently sinful, inherently bad, inherently flawed, that we must pay for a fall that happened at the beginning of time. It's all, of course, Eve's fault. And that we must pay for that. So it's a horrible idea that babies born are already sinned because they are a consequence of sex, and they're human, of course, and human beings are. So I think it comes from that. It's incredibly destructive because it prevents you from actually living life. It prevents you from achieving self-esteem. It prevents you from attaining pride. It holds your life back. Now, people still want to live a little bit. So it's constantly creates a clash between kind of your desires, your wishes, but also your rational interests, your values, and this idea that you're not worthy. You're not worthy. And of course, because, guilt is always used to inflict on other people, it's something that is transmitted from generation to generation. The guilt, the sense of unworthiness, that I don't deserve, I don't belong. And again, if you believe this idea of unworthiness, then you can attain self-esteem. And if you can't attain self-esteem, you can't be happy. So it is completely and utterly destructive to human happiness. And it results in misery. So in every respect, it's a horrible ideology, and the Catholics keep it going because they're committed to the idea of original sin. They can't give it up. It's part of the dogma. Ireland needs to continue to secularize. It's gone quite a bit in its secularization, at least in politics. It needs to secularize culturally. It needs to get rid of this Catholic monstrosity. And Catholic guilt will go away once you get rid of the Christianity. Now, in addition, note that the guilt is not unique to Christianity. It is a feature of altruism. Altruism demands that you live for others. You don't live for others. You live at least a little bit for yourself. And whenever you do that, you feel guilt because morally, you should be living for others. So altruism institutionalizes guilt. It makes guilt part of the package. You can't escape it. So to really get guilt out of the way so that you can be happy, you have to get rid of altruism. And for that, you have to get rid of religion. On and on it goes. A big mission. Not easy. All right. Hopper Campbell. We're about 180 short of our second hour goal. We'll definitely meet our second hour. So yeah, it's important to get the goal. And might even spill into the third hour, depending on how many. Oh, no, we don't have that many questions. 2 hours. Getting to $500 is about right. So if anybody wants to do a sticker, $50, $100, $180, get us there quickly and painlessly. For me anyway, maybe for you. Anyway. Are evil people unaware of their own evil until it comes out? When it comes out, how can they still evade it? I mean, I think people are generally not fully conscious and not fully aware of it. It's obviously there. It's obviously at the periphery. And when it comes out, they might face it and they bury it. Or they might face it, and when they face it, it causes them to hate themselves. But it's definitely the case that evil people mostly evade. And, if they really faced it, they would really hate themselves. And how do they still evade? They compartmentalize it. They bury it. They pretend it isn't real. They put it somewhere else. Or they go crazy. A lot of them go crazy in order to avoid it. All right. Matt. Let's see. Where are we? Destiny had a great debate with a racist, nationalist nutjob on Arabiya English. Highly recommend watching. I'm becoming a fan of his content. Yeah, I mean, as long as you recognize that at the end, he's unprincipled and inconsistent. And he has to be. Michael, even though there are strong voices to regulate big tech, is tech overall a more popular industry with the public? That's why it's allowed more freedom to grow and innovate. I think certainly it has been historically. I think it's been allowed to grow and innovate primarily because regulators couldn't catch up. They've tried, particularly through antitrust. Remember the Microsoft case. But there's been kind of a national security angle. And yeah, it has been historically popular with the public. I'm not sure it is anymore, but it used to be. It's a remnant of our Enlightenment attitude that we still think technology is good, and we still like technology and admire technology, right? So I think that's why it's allowed to grow. I think you're right. I think there is a sense in which the public likes it, but I think there are other reasons too, historic reasons, reasons that have to do with just government catching up and trying to do it, but not being very successful at it. It's also, technology really boomed during the Reagan administration and into the Clinton administration, periods where regulations were muted anyway, and deregulation was very strong. And now, since Obama and certainly with Biden and Trump, there's much more calls to regulate technology. Neil, if you were the U.S. president, how would you deal with Israel knowing Bibi is still the prime minister? Would you shame him for his failed leadership? Yeah, I think I would. But if I were U.S. president, Bibi wouldn't be prime minister of Israel. I'm pretty sure. Not because I would do anything, but just because we would be living in a different world. But yeah, I would shame him and criticize him and be supportive of Israel's goals in a way that, while being critical of him. Look, but at the end of the day, it's not the U.S.'s responsibility to decide for Israel who their leader should be, who their prime minister should be. So that's Israel's responsibility. At the end of the day, they need to make that call. It's not America's call. Bibi is not acting against the interest of the United States, so it's not really America's business. Wes, thank you for the $50. Really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Chipping away at that, at the goal. I appreciate that. Supkaski, what's scary is that the far-right militia might intimidate and harm people who go against the administration and pull strings to enable them. Yep. It is very scary. I agree completely. And it's a real possibility. So, Brixton Cole, when the Librards eventually get power back, do you think there will be a radical 180 turn to the left-wing collectivist extremists in response to MAGAtard's collectivist extremists? No, I don't. I don't, because as I've said many, many times, the left-wing extremists are always going to be super unpopular in America, and it's just not possible to win in any kind of respect with that. It might be possible somehow to win with the right wing, with MAGA, but it's certainly not possible to win with left-wing nut jobs. It's just not possible. Jonathan, it should have been over when he said McCain wasn't a real war hero. And I'm no fan of McCain, neither am I. You're absolutely right, Jonathan. I mean, that was such a disgraceful comment. I mean, it should be over. He called judges by racist slurs. He was an ugly candidate from the beginning. And yeah, the McCain thing should have made Republicans of all people realize it. Matt says, Destiny said, quote, "No one in this country is pro-American, and it's a huge problem. He almost gets it, but can't see how his mixed economy philosophy is to blame." Yeah, I know, but he's still dedicated to that mixed economy philosophy, and that, therefore, his whole philosophy is a mixture. It's like the mixed economy of the soul, right? Matt says, reach out to discuss this with him. Much of his fan base seemed to appreciate your last appearance, and if you approach it as a debate, he will engage. Yeah, I will. I just need to have time to do it. I am swamped right now. I'm prepping for my Jordan Peterson courses. I've got one next week, 2 at the end of July that I need to prepare. I've got a talk to do at OCON. So I don't know when I'm just going to have time to actually do it. Maybe in July as I'm preparing for the second 2 courses, but this month probably is out. After OCON. Thank you, Paul, for the sticker. Really appreciate it. Any amount is great, guys. Just jump in with stickers. Any amount. James, how does Iran get to threaten troops in the Middle East? How do we get more Americans and supposedly Middle East partners to truly back the U.S.? Well, it gets to threaten troops in the Middle East, American troops in the Middle East, because we're not willing to engage with them. We're not willing to make them suffer the consequences. We haven't been willing since 1979 when they took, how does Iran get to take, what was it, 44, 49 American hostages in 1979 and keep them there for, what was it, over a year? How does that happen? How do we allow that to happen? With no response. One failed attempt to rescue them, but no response. How is that possible? And then kill the CIA bureau chief in Beirut, organize the killing of the Marines and the Marine barracks in Beirut, the bombing of the American embassy in Beirut, kidnapping of Americans throughout the 1980s all over the Middle East, the Kobo Tower barracks where more American troops were killed. This is in the 1990s, I think, or the early 2000s. And in Saudi Arabia, and it was an Iranian thing, and nobody cares. We're not willing to defend ourselves. We are cowards. How do we get them to stop being cowards? I don't know. I don't know how you get our politicians to actually stand for America and fight for America. Jacqueline, you've been talking about a third political party. Have you thought about having Mark Pellegrino on to talk about his American Capitalist Party? They seem to be making good progress with it. If they're actually making progress, I'll have him on. I don't know what kind of progress they're actually having. It seems like still a fairy tale to me. But yeah, I'm happy to have Mark on to talk about the Capitalist Party or anything else. But yeah, the culture's not ready for capitalism. It's just not ready. We have no support. Even on my chat here, we have people still defending Trump. As long as that happens, there's just no support. There's just no hope. Lucinda, thank you for the sticker. Appreciate it. Chipping away at that goal. But this is the last question. So if you plan to contribute or to trade value for value with me, now is the time to do it, because it soon will be too late. How do you see this summer ending for the economy, tariffs, the Ukraine war, and Europe? Do you see anything changing for the better by September? God, that's a biggie. That is big. I think you're going to see a slowing down and a weakening of the economy. I don't know that it's going to go into recession, but certainly a weakening of the economy into the summer. I think you're already seeing that weakening, and expectations are being set lower and lower. So I think a weaker economy going into September, unless something drastic happens. On tariffs, I think in September we'll still be haggling over them. I think there'll be more extensions. We'll have some clarity over some. There'll be some deals. None of them will be good. Tariffs will be high, as high as they are today, if not higher. But there'll still be haggling going on. I don't see resolution by September. Ukraine war, I don't know. Russia might make some gains this summer. They've still got the people. They've got the numbers, the sheer numbers. It's just going to be very, very hard for the Ukrainians to hold them back. But I don't expect big gains. I think small gains. Europe economy seems to be slightly recovering. They are trading short-term gains for long-term stagnation by taking on a lot of debt. I think this debt will stimulate the economy a little bit, so we'll see some economic growth, but it won't be sustainable, it won't be real long-term. You will see a greater military commitment by Europe. I do see Europe galvanized around an anti-Russia program, and maybe even a pro-deregulation program. We'll see. By the end of summer, we'll know how serious the Europeans are about at least some deregulation. Since trade deficits are a good thing, not a bad thing, a shrinkage of the trade deficit, maybe, but that's not a good thing. That would represent, in this case, a bad thing. So if you tax Americans, and as a consequence of that taxation, you get smaller trade deficits, that is a net negative. That is a net negative. I do not see a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine by the end of the year. By the end of the summer. So I don't think that's going to happen. John, the UK is predicted to be majority Muslim by 2100. Do you think the UK should prevent this? What will you expect the honor killing rate to be in 2100? So I don't believe that number for a variety of reasons. Birth rate among Muslims in the UK is going to decline significantly, as it does even Muslims who emigrate to the West. Their birth rate declines significantly, and it will decline in the UK as well. So that's just extrapolating current birth rates into the future. It's probably even extrapolating immigration patterns of today into the future, and I think the immigration patterns are going to change. I also wouldn't necessarily think that the birth rates among non-Muslims would stay the same as they are today. I think that everybody just assumes things are static, and they're not. Things change. But who knows? It might be worse. I do not expect there will ever be a majority of Muslims in the UK. And part of that could be because the UK stops immigration of Muslims into America. It could be because they start deporting Muslims from the UK. But as I've said before, I do not think Europe will actually succumb to Islam. It'll succumb to fascism. It'll succumb to a repression of individual rights in other ways. But it will not succumb to actually, a complete victory of Islam in Europe. I also expect that many of the Muslims that live in UK today, not all of them, but many of them will assimilate and will become just regular Brits. Now, for that to happen, the UK has to get a lot tougher with them and has to get a lot more serious about it. And but look, Labour government is very unpopular. Immigration is very unpopular. I expect whoever comes into power next, even the Labour Party is talking about limiting immigration reform, and the Conservative Party will certainly, I think, retard the growth rate of the Muslim population one way or the other. And as the Muslims become more violent, the locals will become more violent, which is not a good thing, but it's the reality. What do I expect the honor killing rate to be in 2100? I expect it to be basically almost non-existent, because I think that the Muslims who are left in the UK will have mostly assimilated. There might be some, but I don't know what the honor killing is today. So I don't buy the whole premise. I just don't think it's true. I think, again, as I've said many, many times, the risk in Europe is not Islam, it's Europe's response to Islam. And this is a consequence of the fact that they won't deal with Islam properly. They refuse to identify the cause of the problem. They resort to racist responses instead of civilized responses. The West could easily deal with the Muslim problem, but it needs to deal with it, and they need to deal with it in a Western kind of way, not in what is proposed by the left and not as what is proposed by the right, but in a Western civilization way, in a way that kind of gets the Muslims to assimilate or to leave, which I think is ultimately the alternative they will face. Lucinda says, my used copy of Dim has a little bit of marginalia and things like that from the previous owner in it. Going to be interesting to look at once I get to reading Dim. Yeah, it will be interesting to see what they highlighted. But also Dim is going to be really interesting to read right now as it seems to be unfolding, just the way Leonard predicted it would unfold in the Dim hypothesis. So, yeah. I mean, the sad thing is, just going back to Europe, that the Muslim problem, the easier one deals with it, the easier one handles it, the easier one acknowledges it and faces it, the easier it is to deal with, right? And now's a better time than 20 years from now, and 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago would have been a better time than today. Certainly after 9/11 would have been an ideal time. Everything came together to deal with it. And the reality is that Europe and the United States refused to deal with the Islamist problem. And the consequence of that, particularly for Europe, the United States, the consequence is small, but for Europe, the consequences are big. And they're going to get bigger as long as they refrain from dealing with it. I think Europe can sustain its own freedom, its own liberty by dealing with the problem today. If they have to deal with it in 20, 30, 40 years, they will have to give up liberty and freedom in order to do it. And that'll be an unbelievable tragedy. Unbelievable tragedy. Soupcast, thank you for the sticker. Thank you all. Thanks for the support, guys. I will see you all. Thank you for all the super chatters. I will see you all when? Tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think we're at 4 o'clock again. 4 o'clock Eastern time. Ooh, one more question sneaking in. Do you recommend people join today's military? Which branches do you think are best for an objectivist? I don't know which branches are best for an objectivist. Ones where you stay safe. I don't know. I'm very mixed on joining the military. I do not recommend it generally. I don't think your commander-in-chief or your generals care enough about your life as an individual. I don't think they care enough about your life as a soldier. You're going to risk your life and then your commanders don't care about it. That is a horrible combination. So I'm not a fan of joining the military because of that. But if you still want to defend your country, protect your country, then do so in a position that doesn't put you on the front line, maybe in intelligence, maybe in the Navy or something like that. But, I think if you're on the front line, they don't care about you. They hamper you. They send you into battle blindfolded. They limit your ability to defend yourself. It's one of the most ugliest, horrific, and shameful betrayals that we have. So, that's my view of serving in the military. But I understand wanting to serve. So maybe in an area that is not so, right on the battlefield. All right, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.